So, you want to build a gaming PC and you started looking at build videos, Reddit, and other forums, as well as prices to get an idea of what you can afford, but you still aren't sure what to do, what to look for, and how to maximize your budget. Well, don't worry, don't stress. Your boy Kobe's here, and I'll help you out by telling you some things that you should not overspend on when building a gaming PC. What's going on, guys? It's your boy Kobe, and in this video, I'm going to show you guys the 5 things you should avoid overspending when building a gaming PC. This is mostly going to be a talking head video, so you can put me down and just listen, or you can watch my hand movements because I do talk a lot with my hands. You can easily overspend on many components and accessories, and your budget will be depleted if you don't balance out certain parts of your build. If anyone has anything to add to my list, put them in the comments below and I can pin them as they come in. Alright, with that being said, let's get straight to it. The first thing you should avoid overspending when it comes to building a gaming PC is an easy one, and that is the RGB. Now, you have RGB everywhere. In your fans, your RAM, cooler, GPU, motherboard, even the power supply, and of course the case. Now, as you can see on the PC right behind me, I'm a little bit of a hypocrite, but just listen up here. RGB is almost always an extra tax on the parts that you choose. While sure, RGB may look nice, most of us are building on a budget, whether it be $500, $1,000, or more. RGB can really make you overspend, and you should probably start looking at the differences in prices. For example, a kit of RAM would cost anywhere between $10 to $30 more if you get the same kit with RGB. And that's money you can possibly allocate to get something like a better processor or maybe even more storage. So be careful and try to look at parts with our RGB. And if you do want something with RGB, compare the prices to see if it's worth the extra cost. The second thing that you should avoid overspending is the power supply. While this is a crucial component to the PC build, you can still go overboard on this. Let's say, for example, you want to build a $500 or even an $800 gaming PC that can play games at 1440. You have a Ryzen 7600 and an RTX 4060 Ti, assuming that the prices are okay now. The recommended power supply is one with at least 550 watts, but you end up buying a 1000 watt power supply. Why? Why would you spend so much money on getting a power supply that high? It may seem like the more wattage the better, but if your PC only uses 500 watts of power when maxed out, it will never use 1000 watts or even get close to that. When it comes to power supplies, here's what I would recommend. If you know what the recommended power supply wattage is for the potential build, get a power supply with a little bit more headroom but not too much. If it says 550 watt recommended, get a 600 or a 650 watt. If it's 600, go no higher than, let's say, 700 watts. It's always good to have some headroom, but not too much. Because in the future, if you want to make upgrades, some headroom will help you not make a PSU upgrade. But going too much might not be cost effective for you. Also, pay attention to the 80+ certification. They have them in white, which is the basic. You can go to bronze, gold, platinum, and titanium, I believe, is the highest. While the higher, the more efficient, sometimes it doesn't make sense to spend so much on this as well. There is a well-known PSU tier list that you can always refer to, but gold is almost always good for most users, and you can even do bronze for more budget builds. The third thing you shouldn't overspend on is a CPU cooler. Now, I made a list of about 50 PC build videos by your favorite tech tubers and broke down on how much they spent on each part. And the one part that I noticed they really did not overspend on is a CPU cooler. Now, sure, you can have some amazing features like an LCD screen on an AIO and multiple fans on the radiator, but the cost of these coolers might not be cost effective, especially when a lot of air coolers can perform just as well for a fraction of the cost. You can get really carried away, especially when you're building on a budget build, and you can definitely overspend on this part. Understand that if you are not doing any heavy overclocking or doing anything too CPU intensive, a simple air cooler can do the job most of the time. Now, of course, there are exceptions, and you should see the TDP limits of your CPU. But for the most part, this is a component that can get really high in cost if you do not stay true to your budget. The fourth thing you should not overspend on is actually kind of a two-parter. So I'm combining it into one and I'm calling it the CPU to GPU ratio. Sometimes I notice on posts and forums that someone's build might have a high-end CPU with a lower-end GPU or vice versa. Now, during my research and breaking down of the PC videos I did, I noticed that a CPU counts for roughly 17% of your total build budget, and the GPU counts for 39% of the total build budget. So if you have a $1,000 budget, for example, about $170 should be allocated to your processor, and about $390 should be allocated to your graphics card. While this isn't a rule that is set in stone, it definitely provides a consistent trend among those who build PCs with a price to performance in mind. So building a PC with like a 7950X processor and an RTX 3060 graphics card makes absolutely no sense. Also, and vice versa, getting a 7600X with an RTX 4090 would not make sense in this scenario as well. Overspending on any of these components might create some sort of a bottleneck, and there's a chance you might not be getting the most out of these two parts. So do your research and try to find a balance of maximizing your performance while not overspending on one part. The fifth thing you should not overspend on is the case. The case is the most subjective component of a PC build, and because there are so many options, prices slowly creep up. If you're building a modest budget build that's like $800, you don't need to spend $300 on a case. I know that you're using your PC for light gaming, for example, so you won't even need a case with 12 fans. It's so easy to get carried away because you may want your build to look a certain way, have visual looks that might impress you personally, but it won't do anything to your performance. While performance and airflow is important, most users, especially those on the budget side of things, won't generate much heat that justifies a massive PC case. Most cases nowadays do a great job of pushing airflow, so unless you have parts that produce massive heat, you may want to reconsider the case to save some cost. And finally, a bonus one for you all, that's the last thing that you shouldn't overspend when building on a gaming PC, and that's actually your peripherals. Now sure, a lot of build videos don't allocate your budget towards a keyboard and mouse, but as someone who has a lot of peripherals, either from my own spending or from partners that I receive them from, you can easily lose control on a keyboard, mouse, headsets, and other peripherals. Now, I have been truly blessed to work with brands that provide peripherals in various price points, and it's very easy for me to tell you all that you don't need to spend hundreds of dollars on a keyboard and mouse. Sure, there are brands who have a reputation for providing amazing performance, but you can get great performance while not breaking the bank. There are too many brands out there, but doing your research on the kind of peripheral you want, sizes, styles, ergonomics, feel, and so many other points, there are so many things to consider, and the rabbit hole goes very, very deep. If you do not know where to start, I would recommend focusing on brands that offer budget products. That way you don't have to overspend, and over time you might realize this might actually be something that you enjoy, or it's not for you, but at least you didn't overspend on it. Now yes, it is a little bit difficult because peripherals are very subjective and they're very unique to the user. But I still wouldn't spend too much money on something you may not fully understand because it may not tailor to your personal preferences. And these were the 5 things plus an extra bonus one that I believe you should not overspend when building a gaming PC. And like I said before, there are other things you probably should not overspend, and if you guys think of others, put them in the comments below and I will pin them to make sure that they are as visible as possible. But if you guys did enjoy this list and this video, make sure to hit that like button and also do not forget to subscribe as well. Thank you guys all so much for watching, and we'll see you all in the next one.